Picture, in your mind if you will, on the screen a group of fairly well-known earthlings: George W. Bush, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Piers Morgan, Daniel Craig, etc. Now add to the list Bill Gates, King Charles, Mark Zuckerberg, and Lord, to mention but a few more. Then ponder to yourself, other than fame, wealth and power, large followings on Instagram, an embarrassing sex tape that still haunts them, what other common trait is it that they all share? Think about this 2 ticks before I reveal their dirty secret. Tick tock. In breaking news,
they are all reptilian shapeshifters.
Lizard people with better complexions, less propensity to eat flies. Laugh, you might. You and me live amongst people who believe in this. They get to vote, replicate, by laying eggs presumably. Mind you, on reflection, Lord hasn't exactly made much effort to disguise herself. Now has she? Asexual at a first guess. Greta Thunberg is another one. One look at her facial features, her mannerisms, you know you are staring at a lizard hierarchy. The pieces now fit together. That's if you want them to. So when and where did this modern machination of a pop sci-fi story from the 30s come to life? Reptilians, part human, part lizard, as shape-shifting aliens living amongst our midst. When exactly did it take hold? What blood type are they? Why are they always in high-powered positions and not stacking supermarkets? Why aren't their parietal eyes a dead giveaway? Is there a scaly Illuminati club close to you? Or is this just merely a rotary ploy for younger members? Dungeons and Dragons practitioners getting too into character? For this and way more, you only need to look at an ex-BBC sports host, 72-year-old Brit, David Icke. That's bike without the B. A one-man conspiracy black hole. The culinary equivalent of Bubbles and Squeak. Throw it all into a fry pan, cook it, as in cookers. First ingredient,
Freemasons.
Boxed tick there. What's this about? At least they keep the concept of standards of dress alive. See no shame in grown men wearing white gloves, not just Michael Jackson. Speaking of Michael Jackson,
secretive pedophile networks
who are doing their best to catch up with the Catholic Church. Good luck with that.
Satanists.
What you and I would call the Teachers' Union or the BBC.
Rothschilds.
Jews in general. Yay, my gratuitous time for an advert. If any Rothschild is listening to this podcast come video, I am open to discussing a sponsorship deal for this channel. Send me a business class ticket to Switzerland, where our lawyers can thump out a deal over a meal consisting of cooked flesh from a poor person, washed down with a nice bottle of a Chateau Mouton Rothschild.
5G.
It wasn't the Jews that caused SARS-CoV-2, it was rather the 5G radio frequency, as opposed to, say, the Wuhan lab leak. Now that's a conspiracy theory I believe in. Only David Icke's followers, they took this 5G business a bit too seriously. They attacked wireless towers. This resulted in Icke's own YouTube channel being pulled. Still, there are splatterings you can listen to of his content online, which, in small doses, is oddly entertaining, as I'm about to prove in spades very shortly. Listening to David Icke is like listening to ambient music. At the end, you are left with nothing to hum or resonate. His sentences, bubbles, pouring out of a soapy wand between his ears. You can see those bubbles floating in the air, and try and grasp them. They pop, disappear, for yet another to seamlessly replace it. It's hard to latch on to what he's saying, no more so than Joe Biden, I might add, except Icke's dictation is way superior. So, valued listeners, if you have any illegal substances handy, it's time to pause this podcast, come video, and take time to indulge. If not, hunt out that old Beatles White Album, give it a spin first to get in the mood. Let's all now listen to Mr. Icke tell us about the reptilians. Before I do, I'd just like to say thank you to the YouTube channel Inspired. The video this narration came from has 750,000 views, by the way. Mixed over drone footage of New Zealand by tourist Raymond Chong. Onto the astral plane we now go.
All around the world, you see this recurring theme in different cultures, and it's described in different ways, but exactly the same in theme. We have a force, an expression of this Wetiko that takes a reptilian form. And the cultures around the world, again and again and again, when they're doing their creation myths, then some kind of reptilian, lizard-like, snake-like entities are described. So if you take the biblical version, you have Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And Adam and Eve are symbolic of, first of all, what humans were like before what became known as the fall. What the hell was the fall? The way I've seen this is that there was once not something that you'd call human. It was a state of consciousness that was experiencing a world, a frequency band that was like the one we're experiencing, but on a much higher level of awareness, consciousness, frequency. So things weren't happening in dense matter and low, slow frequencies. They were happening on a high frequency. Things were much more ethereal. And that, I think, is what's described as this paradise that went before. And so Adam and Eve were cast out of paradise. What does that mean, I would suggest? They left that frequency level where what we now call humans were experiencing. A world of love, of joy, of happiness, of all the things that happen when you get into high frequency states where so much more is possible. And they fell, the fall was down the frequencies into dense matter. And the villain in the Garden of Eden that is said to have been part of this, or central to this, is the snake. People have to think symbolically. I mean, this is not a snake that can talk. This is symbolic of this reptilian group, not just one person, this reptilian group, these reptilian gods as they were perceived. And they fell down the frequencies, Adam and Eve, symbolic of what's now humanity, because they gained the knowledge of good and evil. What is good and evil? It's polarity. It's the polarity that we see in our reality now. That level that we fell from was oneness, it was unity. And we fell into the knowledge of good and evil, the knowledge of polarity, which is what this world is. And my view, and it has been for a lot of years now, is that what Genesis is describing is the takeover of human perception by this reptilian force.
When I count to 3 and snap my fingers, you will awaken.
1, 2, 3.
Nutty as a fruitcake ramblings they may be, mesmerising, nevertheless, if any of that made sense, and place a psychiatrist and your zip code into the search bar, and if you thought it couldn't get any weirder, you doubtless had suspicions it could.
Reality as we know it doesn't exist.
No, in reality it doesn't exist. Stick with me, please, people, stick with me. Reality on Earth, for us humans, not shape-shifting lizard people, is little more than a version of a soap opera projected into our minds by a reptilian master race called the Anunnaki from the Draco constellation, who broadcast all our experiences. They never seem to have internet problems, control everything we see and hear, and this is done holographically from the planet Saturn. Someone needs to explain to these folks Saturn is made of gas, making it rather hard to land or jump on, constructing a diddly squat on. Nevertheless, the story goes at one stage the Anunnaki were in rather more familiar territory, a mere hop, skip and a beam away. The moon, our celestial body, was used to project these thought programs down. That's what I call satellite tally. But you know what the lunar real estate prices have done up there lately? So they packed up shop and went to Saturn, where alien labour was also way cheaper. Inflation is, after all, a pressing galactic issue. Icke has his believers, staunch believers in some or all of what he says, who are bound to pop up in the comments section, which, if you looked at what he had to say is and got technical about it, is a variation of the bonkers ancestor simulation theory. Getting to the crux now. We only really have three characters in the story. David Icke, who you've met, who for some inexplicable reason decided to dress solely in what looks like a turquoise football tracksuit from the 70s, continuously, day in, day out, for 5 years running in the 90s, along with his wife, and live-in mistress as well. Next, Shane Walbrook. Shane is currently the CEO of Auckland Table Tennis, which may go some small way to explaining things as we move forward. Also, probably Auckland Table Tennis's only European member. He formerly played in New Zealand's worst-named band, Climate Change. Not a top bio, I know. Good luck on Tinder, Shane, old chap. John Key. Followed it, Helen Clark, as the last male Prime Minister of New Zealand. He was the PM of NZ between 2008 and 2016. This all took place in 2014, when Walbrook, who appears to have been going through a bit of a mythical search part of his life, UFOs being gods for atheists, watching too much YouTube in the days when weird was allowed, penned an official information request that landed up in the office of the then Prime Minister of New Zealand, John Key, asking,
"Is there any evidence to disprove the theory that Mr. Key is in fact a David Icke-style shape-shifting reptilian alien ushering humanity towards enslavement?"
All sounds perfectly normal. Anyone can access and look up New Zealand official information requests and replies. The abbreviated reply from Key's Chief of Staff on his behalf said,
I can confirm that no official information has been identified, that the document alleged to contain that information requested does not exist or cannot be found.
In other words, piss off, Noddy. Walbrook's reaction was sadly rather predictable. He thought the time taken, 20 working days, was suspicious in itself. Indeed, when the correspondence got to the media, that helped catapult the belief in alien overlords into the public consciousness, frequency of that unknown. Breathing more life into it at one of John Key's press conferences, when questioned about his links to the alien shapeshifters from Saturn, rather than shutting them down, Key played along.
To the best of my knowledge, no. Having been asked this question directly, I've taken the unusual step of not only seeing a doctor, but a vet, and both have confirmed I'm not a reptile. So I'm certainly not a reptile. I've never been into a spaceship, and I've never been to outer space, and my it's not overly long either.
We all know he's lying, though. Since starting this project, I've come across a video by David Icke, I believe is a portent to a brave new world, speaks to a frequency that I can listen to. But before I play this wondrous enlightenment, whilst I've got you on the hook, another piece of forgotten Kiwi gold medal weirdness, the Rainbow Connection bomb threat, 1996.
Play that song by Kermit, or the place goes up.
Link below, or at the end of the screen if you're on YouTube. Now to that video that I mentioned. Listen intently to the inspirational words of David Icke, 1984, his days with BBC Sport.
Well, what an about turn there's been in the city of Liverpool these past few weeks, and that was never more obvious than today, with Everton going into second place in the First Division after beating Manchester United 5-0, while Liverpool, who play tomorrow, fell into the bottom three for the first time for 20 years. Kevin Sheedy scored twice for Everton as they cast United aside at Goodison Park. Heath, Stevens and Sharp got the others, and the teams meet again in the Milk Cup at Old Trafford on Tuesday.
Okay, you caught me out. I am an Everton fan, which in 2020 makes you a borderline cult member, a fringe group, engaging en masse in large wallopings of sadomasochism, ritually inflicted every week. Do consider spending another 11 minutes here with that most famous of amphibians, Kermit, his biggest New Zealand devotee. That's the bloke with the bomb in his backpack. One song going around in his mind, which of course, if you've been listening properly so far, you'll know a little more than holograms projected 1.2 billion kilometres from Saturn into his suite, processed to look like a rather bad episode from Coronation Street, which is a metaphor for real life. Oh, yep, righto. Let's now end this little number with one of David Icke's mantras for a bright new world, cutting the heads off the evil six-headed Hydra rulers. Repeat after me. Everton 5, Manchester United 0. Everton 5, Manchester United 0. Everton 5, Manchester United 0. In the next couple of episodes, I deal to the longevity spruikers flooding YouTube and touting false hopes. It is they and they alone that have the key to an extra lifespan. And send your credit card details. Also, the Kiwi who hunted Noah's Ark twice and claimed to have found it once. Everton 5 for now. Manchester United 0. Everton 5. Manchester United 0. Everton 5. Manchester United 0.